Growing up, I was always drawn to adrenaline, to the extreme, to testing my limits. It started with the common stuff: bungee jumping, parachuting, mountain climbing. But like a junkie chasing a greater high, I always craved more. Through my adventures, I gathered a group of like-minded friends. There were 5 of us: Katie and Lena, David and Jake, and me, Adam. Together, we graduated to more dangerous pursuits: base jumping, cave diving, that sort of thing. 3 years ago, we landed on what felt like our grandest idea yet. We would ski to the South Pole. The decision was swift. Only Lena hesitated, unnerved by the continent's sheer remoteness. But our enthusiasm soon won her over. Before long, we were all planning, saving, and researching. On November 6th, we stepped off a chartered plane onto Hercules Inlet, a bay on the southwestern edge of Antarctica and the starting point for our 50-day trek. Waiting for us was our guide, Leif Steenson. Jake had chosen Leif personally on the recommendation of a fellow traveler who had hired the Norwegian for his own Antarctic expedition. My first impression was of a gruff, silent man. "Hey there," Jake called out as we approached, hauling our packs and skis. "You must be Leif?" "Yes," he answered curtly, his voice thick with a heavy accent. "And you're Jake?" "The very same." My friend beamed. His easy, friendly nature was a stark contrast to Leif's detached manner. After our introductions, our guide got straight to business. "There are a few basic rules you must follow to stay safe. Obey my commands at all times. Do not wander from the group. Do not leave the camp. Will we get a handbook?" Katie, the joker of our group, laughed. Leif fixed her with an icy stare. "No, no handbook. You remember or you don't go." Katie's laughter died. Once Leif finished his briefing, we set out. I can't begin to describe the scenery. Nothing I've ever seen compares. Flat, endless ice sheets stretched to the horizon like a frozen sea. It was undeniably beautiful, but it also pressed home the reality of our isolation. We were utterly alone, with no other humans for possibly hundreds of miles. If anything went wrong, it could be deadly. I loved every second of it. As we skied northeast, I broke formation and fell in beside David. He was the most like Leif among us, quiet and reserved, at least until you got to know him. "So, when are you going to ask Leif out?" I grinned. "Shut the fuck up, Adam," he laughed back. I will say, though, the way he shut Katie up was glorious. Wish more people could do that. From ahead, Katie shot us a withering glare. We both snickered. "Not like there are many coffee shops out here. Anyway," I said, "your date will have to wait." After several hours, Leif's voice carried back from the front of the column. "We stop here for now. Unpack your tents." As we kicked off our skis and started setting up camp, I wandered over to Lena. "So how do you like it so far?" "It's beautiful, I'll give you that," she answered. "But like I said before, it's so barren, so massive. I can't help but feel small and meaningless, like a fly on a wall." "I'm sure you'll be fine," I said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "In a month, we'll reach the Teal Mountains. That should break up the monotony." Lena was about to reply, but stopped, squinting over my shoulder at something in the distance. "What's that, Adam?" I turned, scanning the white expanse. "What?" "I don't see any." Then I saw what she was pointing at. Far on the horizon, something gray and unmoving broke the seamless line of ice. It was too distant to identify. I called out to our guide. "Hey, Leif, got a second?" He came over, his bearded face as stern as ever. "Yes? What is it? Any idea what that is?" I asked, pointing toward the faraway shape. He stroked his beard, thoughtful. "I do not know," he said finally. "Rocks, perhaps." "It's roughly on our way," said Jake, walking over from his pack. He flashed a winning smile. "Maybe we could check it out tomorrow." "What do you think, Leif?" "Up for an adventure." Leif seemed uneasy with the suggestion. "I do not know if that is a good idea. We need to keep a good pace." "Jake's right. It's almost on our route anyway." Lena pressed. "Come on, it might be something interesting." Leif sighed. "Fine, tomorrow. But it is probably just rocks." My first night in Antarctica was sobering. Even inside my tent, bundled in warm layers in a specialized sleeping bag, I could feel the biting cold. Eventually, my own breathing warmed the small space, and I fell into a deep sleep. 8 hours later, Leif woke us to break camp. As I ate a small breakfast of freeze-dried cheese and chocolate, I saw Katie staring at the gray shapes on the horizon. She had a look of strange confusion. "What's up?" I asked, walking over. "Sleep well." "Those things," she said. "Weren't they to the north when we set up camp?" I frowned, trying to remember. "I think so." "What?" "They're to the east now," she said. I paused. "Are you sure you didn't get turned around?" "No, I checked my compass. They're definitely to the east." "I guess we misremembered," I said, dismissing it. "We were all tired." "Yeah, must have been," Katie said absently, her mind clearly elsewhere. "Wonder what they are. Guess we'll find out soon enough." After eating, we put on our skis and set out, heading toward the strange objects. Leaf seemed slightly troubled, and I wondered if he, too, felt the direction was wrong. As we drew closer, the shapes resolved into a circle of massive, rectangular stones standing on end. They reminded me instantly of Stonehenge. Approaching them, David fell in beside Leaf. "I thought Antarctica never had an indigenous population," he said. "Who could have built this?" Our guide looked perplexed. "I will be honest with you, I do not know. I have never seen anything like this." "I thought you'd been through this part of the continent before," said Lena. "I have, but I never encountered this. It is irregular. We should take a closer look." Katie grinned back at him. "Good to see you've warmed to our little adventure, Leaf." We approached the circle cautiously. Up close, we could see the stones had once borne carvings, though they were now eroded almost to nothing by time and wind. In the center of the circle stood a low, square slab of stone. 4 grooves ran from its center to each corner. "What the hell?" Lena whispered. "How did this even get here?" "Aliens." Katie smiled. "Isn't that always the answer?" I walked over to the central stone. It was dark, about knee-high, and featureless. For some reason, it made me deeply uneasy. I touched it hesitantly. The surface was perfectly smooth, unlike the weathered stones of the circle. "We should continue," Leaf called out. "We have a timetable to keep. We can note the coordinates and report this discovery when we return." Slowly, our group reassembled, and we set out again. The featureless expanse stretched out around us, and I was glad we had an experienced guide like Leaf. Every so often, he would check his compass, making slight adjustments to our course. I slept better that second night, knowing the initial shock of the cold would eventually pass. Before bed, I spoke with Lena, who confessed the stone circle had unsettled her as well. "It shouldn't be here," she said firmly. "This place has never had native people. Ever. It's just scientists and tourists. And why would they build something like this?" "Maybe Katie's right," I smiled. "Aliens." Lena groaned theatrically. "You're all underestimating how important this could be. We might have stumbled on proof that the history of this continent is completely different." "I hope not. I don't want my legacy to be a footnote in a history book." We both laughed, and the tension eased slightly. When I woke, I knew something was wrong. I could hear hushed voices outside my tent. I climbed out, rubbing grit from my eyes. Leaf, Lena, David, Katie, and Jake stood in a huddle, talking quietly and casting furtive glances to the west. I followed their gaze. On the horizon, far away, was a familiar circle of gray stones. A chill traced its way down my spine. I walked over to my friends. "How is this possible?" I asked. "Those things should be south of us. We shouldn't even be able to see them." Leaf silenced me with a gesture. "We have been discussing it. The only logical explanation is that this is a second circle. It is strange, to say the least. I have never heard of one stone circle in Antarctica, let alone 2. "Do we investigate?" asked Lena. "No," Leaf replied resolutely. "Yesterday's detour already put us behind schedule. We must press on. I will note these coordinates and pass them to the experts later." We packed up and set off, a strange hush having fallen over our group. The second circle had unnerved us all. I could tell the others were now just as disconcerted as Lena and I had been. During the day's trek, I only spoke once, with Katie, hoping her humor might help me relax. "So, aliens, huh?" I said, skiing beside her. "Is that your professional opinion?" She grinned, but her eyes were troubled. "It's obvious, isn't it?" she joked. "What else could it be? Maybe Leaf put them there to scare us." "Did you see his face?" He was as confused as we are, Katie said, her tone suddenly serious. And if he's been through here before, how come he never saw them? Maybe they were buried in snow? I suggested. I've read the landscape can change quickly here. Our conversation trailed off, and we remained silent until we made camp again. Before I went to sleep, I noticed David scanning the horizon. It was a clear day, and we could see for miles. What are you looking for? I asked, walking over. More snow and ice. Making sure there are no bloody stone circles around, he replied. I laughed, but he didn't join in. I went to bed, the feeling of unease returning. A commotion woke me suddenly. I tore on my tent, still in my sleeping gear. David was shouting, cursing. What's happening? What's going on? I yelled. David stood at the edge of our camp, gesticulating wildly at the western horizon. My heart skipped a beat when I saw what he was cursing at. A circle of gray rocks. My friends emerged from their tents, sleepy and confused. Their confusion quickly curdled into a quiet, uncertain fear. How is this possible? Lena asked, her voice trembling. I don't know, Leaf answered. Even he seemed troubled, repeatedly checking his compass as if to confirm the rocks were indeed in that direction. I was about to suggest we investigate, but David cut me off. Where's Katie? We stood in silence, looking around. Leaf ran to Katie's tent and unzipped it. It was empty. Not even her sleeping bag remained. A heavy quiet fell over our group. No one knew what to say. Leaf broke the silence. There are footprints here. Looking closer, I saw he was right. Booted prints were pressed into the snow, leading from her tent entrance and away from the camp. We followed them. A short distance later, Lena threw her hands up in frustration. What the fuck? She exclaimed. What the fuck is going on? Peering past her, I saw what had angered her. The footprints just stopped, abruptly, without any warning, as if Katie had been plucked straight up into the air. We gathered around the spot where they ended. Jake cleared his throat. Leaf? What's the plan? What's our next move? Leaf was silent for a moment, staring at the final footprints. Then he looked at Jake. We have to search for her. She must be here somewhere. We will spread out in a line, and... He trailed off as something on the ground caught his eye. I looked down. Our movement had disturbed the snow, revealing the ice beneath. It was oddly clear, almost like glass. Through it, we could see something red, a piece of fabric, frozen deep below the surface. Leaf cleared his throat. Clear the snow. We set to work, scraping the snow away with our gloved hands. Soon, the view below became horrifyingly clear. Jake cursed savagely. Leaf crossed himself. My breath caught in my throat as I realized what I was seeing. Frozen solid in the ice below us, lying in her sleeping bag as if she were still asleep, was Katie. Lena collapsed into the snow, her breath coming in panicked gasps. David and Jake stood paralyzed, staring at Katie's frozen form. I grabbed our guide by the shoulders, turning him to face me. What the fuck, Leaf? I shouted. How did this happen? What the hell is going on? Leaf's face was like carved rock, but I could see a gleam of fear in his eyes. I don't know, he replied, his voice barely a whisper. But we must return. We have to get out of here. What? And leave her? David said incredulously. You can't be serious. There is nothing we can do for her. She is dead. We have no pickaxes to dig her out. And even if we did, what then? Leaf was somehow maintaining his composure. We need to go back. Whatever is happening out here, we must escape it. We must return to Hercules Inlet. What is happening? Jake yelled, his anger flaring. Who did this to Katie? Leaf looked at him. I don't know, he said finally. I'm as scared as you are. But if we wish to survive, you must listen to me. We have to turn back. Now, a shocked silence fell over us. Slowly, we picked ourselves up and headed back to camp. David lingered the longest, looking down at Katie's body, trapped in the ice. I put an arm around his shoulder and led him away. As we packed up, my eyes kept returning to the damning stone circle. It seemed closer now, mocking us. We set out in mournful silence. The weather, which had been fair for 3 days, began to turn. Snow and wind gained strength until Leaf finally stopped the group. We must set up camp before conditions worsen, he announced. As we worked, he continued, We will keep a watch tonight. I will begin. After 90 minutes, I will wake Jake, and so on. We will not be vulnerable while we sleep. What are we guarding against? David asked, his voice low. I thought this place was uninhabited. Antarctica has never been truly settled. No, Leaf replied. Only scientists and tourists come here. During World War II, the Germans briefly established a base on the coast, but that is all. I couldn't help but notice he had expertly evaded David's question. We erected our tents in dejected silence, each of us lost in morbid fears. As I settled into rest, I could hear Leaf's footsteps pacing outside. My watch wasn't for another 3 hours. I lay there, thinking about Katie, forever frozen in the ground where we found her. I couldn't get her face out of my mind. At least she had died in her sleep. Exhaustion finally dragged me into slumber. I woke some time later, feeling far too rested. It had been much longer than 3 hours. Climbing out of my tent, I saw Leaf sitting in the center of the camp, his back to me, hood up. Leaf, everything all right? I called. No answer. My heart began to pound. Leaf, I called again, praying for response. He remained silent. Slowly, I walked toward his seated form. He didn't move an inch. I put a hand on his shoulder and turned him around. My scream tore the others from their sleep. They ran from their tents to find me, standing over what I had thought was our guide. It wasn't. It was Leaf's clothes, packed with snow and shaped into the outline of a man. From the hood, a smooth globe of ice stared out blankly. Shit, shit, shit. Oh, fuck, Lena cried, turning away from the figure. David stared at it, motionless. It was Jake who broke our horrified trance. Guys, look. We turned to where he was pointing. Of course, a stone circle, this time to the east. David ran to the edge of the camp and screamed toward it. What do you want? He yelled. What do you want from us? I rushed over, Lena behind me. We put our hands on his shoulders and gently led him back. We have to keep moving, Jake said, assuming command through sheer force of will. Hercules Inlet is only 2 days away. We can't stay here. What difference does it make? David mumbled. We have to keep moving, Jake repeated, his voice firm. We won't achieve anything by staying here. We broke camp and set out. David lagged behind, his eyes blank with shock. Lena and I took turns staying with him, trying to keep him moving, trying to distract him with conversation. While Lena was at the back with David, I skied next to Jake. He's falling apart, man, I whispered. I don't know how long he'll hold it together. Jake looked at me, and I could see the resolve in his eyes was the only thing holding him together. In that moment, I truly admired his strength. It's 2 days to the inlet, he said. If we just keep moving, we'll make it. David will hold on. He has to. And if he doesn't, we'll think of something. No one gets left behind. He turned and pressed onward, the conversation clearly over. We pushed on. The loathsome stone circle had now abandoned all pretense of logic, appearing randomly on the horizon, its position inconsistent with our movement. I grew to hate the sight of it, certain it was connected to everything that had happened. By the time we stopped to make camp, David had recovered slightly. He was still distant, but I hoped he would be all right. We quickly agreed there was no point in standing guard. Whatever had taken Leaf had done, so while he was on watch, without him raising an alarm, we retreated to our tents, clinging to the naive security of children hiding under blankets. Even so, sleep was a long time coming. The ever-present terror, the fear of being next, it was hours before exhaustion finally claimed me. I had a horrible nightmare. Someone was unzipping my tent. I lay paralyzed, holding my breath as the zipper slid down. A hand grabbed my legs and dragged me, kicking and screaming, into the snow. A dark, hooded figure stood over me. It reached down with gloved hands, going for my neck. I flailed wildly, my hand closing around a ski pole lying in the snow. I drove it forward like a spear into the figure's throat. Blood gushed out. It made a horrible gurgling sound. I woke. I could immediately tell something had happened. Lena was crying outside, low, heaving sobs. Jake was comforting her. Silently, I climbed out. David. Jake nodded grimly. Gone from his tent. Footprints. Yes. Where do they lead? Instead of answering, Jake pointed behind me. I knew what I would see, but I cursed loudly anyway when I saw the damn stone circle. It was much closer now, only a mile or so away. We should check it, Jake said, though I could tell he expected the worst. He may still be alive. We didn't break camp, a sliver of hope shared between us that if we hurried, we might find David alive. As we approached the circle, we saw something lying on the central slab. "Stay here," I told Jake and Lena. "I'll check it out." They didn't argue. I walked cautiously into the circle and approached the slab. I almost vomited. It was David, covered in blood that ran in frozen trickles through the 4 grooves, leading to the corners of the stone. His throat had been pierced by a ski pole. My ski pole. I retched, gasping for air. I couldn't have. I was sleeping. Wasn't I? Was it a dream? Am I sleeping now? I stumbled back to the others. Lena saw my expression, and her face fell. "David, is he dead?" I said hoarsely. I wish we had cried, had mourned our friend properly. But no tears came, only a hollow emptiness. I think we were all too numb, too shocked to process it. Some primal survival instinct kept us moving. We packed our tents and left. About 4 hours into the journey, Jake stopped. "Guys, look, what is that?" We turned, half expecting another stone circle. Instead, a small, square building rose from the snow, looking uncannily out of place, as if it had been dropped here by accident. "Do you think we should check it out?" Lena whispered. "It's not a stone circle." "That has to mean something," Jake said. "We should have a look." "What do you think it is?" I asked. "Science-based, maybe?" Jake shrugged. "There might be people there. They might be able to help." We set out toward the building. The closer we got, the clearer it became that it was long abandoned. Its cement walls were weathered and half buried in snow. Its iron door hung ajar on rusted hinges. "I guess Leaf was right about the Germans," Lena said, pointing at the door. Faded paint showed a large black swastika above the word Annenberg. I whistled under my breath. "So a secret Nazi base?" "I thought they only had a small one on the coast," said Jake. "Apparently not," I answered. "Should we go inside?" We weighed our options in silence. Finally, Lena spoke. "Yes, maybe we can find some answers. Or a weapon." The door swung open with a resounding creak. We crept inside, into the dark and the cold. A passage, seemingly cut into the ice itself, led downwards. We found the first body in minutes. Preserved by the cold, a young man in a dark military uniform gripped a pistol, a bullet wound in the side of his head. Next to him lay a battery-powered lamp. Jake picked it up, and somehow it flickered to life, casting a sickly yellow beam down the tunnel. There were more bodies, all clutching guns, all with bullet wounds to the head. I shivered. What the fuck happened here? Jake swallowed audibly. Looks like a mass suicide. We continued down the passage, past doors that opened onto rooms filled with antiquated machinery and workstations. There were also several libraries, much to our surprise. At the end of the corridor was a large iron door, much heavier than the others. We stopped before it, apprehensive. Lena broke the spell. "Oh, to hell with it." She leaned forward and pulled. The door budged with a loud screech. Jake shone the light into the room beyond. We squinted into the darkness, looking upon a massive chamber, tens of meters wide and deep. My heart dropped when I saw what it contained. Is that what I think it is?" Jake asked hoarsely. I nodded grimly. Before us, dominating the center of the room, lay a massive circle of gray stones. We stared in mute terror and disbelief at the construction. "Well, shit," Jake muttered. "There are things painted on the ground," Lena said. I looked down and saw she was right. A circle was drawn on the floor in dark paint, its circumference matching the stones. The space within was filled with stars, suns, and strange geometric shapes that made my head spin. Peering into the center, I saw a body on the slab. A man sat cross-legged, frozen in his final position. He had no gunshot wound. A piece of yellowed, folded paper lay before him. "Guys, look." This one left a note. My friends joined me. Lena carefully took the paper and unfolded it. "I could translate this." "You know German?" Jake asked, surprised. Lena gave him an amused look, even in a place like this. "How long have you known me, Jake?" 7, 8 years. She looked back at the paper. "It's very confused. The poor man was probably half mad when he wrote this. Does it say what happened here? I asked, my breath clouding in the frigid air. Yes. It seems they were sent from Germany to conduct some sort of experiment. A ritual. It's unclear. The Ananurb were a pseudo-scientific group, dabbling in the occult. This sounds like them. What kind of ritual? I asked, a shiver running down my spine. He doesn't say, only that they needed these stones in a place where no man had ever lived. The stones were ancient, found in an old warlord's grave in Europe. The Germans didn't even know how old they were. And the suicides? Yes. After the ritual was complete, strange deaths began to plague the base. They couldn't escape. Germany was losing the war, and no one answered their calls. Rather than be taken by whatever they had summoned, they chose suicide. And this guy, what happened to him? He didn't kill himself. He says he was the one who performed a sacrifice on the central slab, and he wanted to see what he had brought into this world. He writes that he won't kill himself until it comes for him. We stood in silence, digesting this. I couldn't help but think about the man's fate. He hadn't killed himself, and he hadn't been killed by the entity. It was the cold or starvation that finally did him in. We shouldn't stay here, Jake said finally. We have to keep moving. We nodded in agreement and returned through the passage. Jake went first, then me. Lena was right behind. She never made it. The door swung shut behind me with sudden, brutal force. Jake cursed. I jumped. Lena, get me out of here, she screamed for the other side, her voice twisted with terror. Get me out. I grabbed the door, pulling with all my strength, but it wouldn't move. Jake joined me, and we both heaved, groaning and panting. Lena hammered on the door, her screams turning to panicked sobs. We pulled and pulled, but it wouldn't budge an inch. Get me out. Get me out. Get me. Her voice cut off. The hammering stopped. Silence. No. Jake screamed, tearing at the door, but remained sealed. Lena, I called, my voice quivering. No reply. She's gone. Jake whispered. It's taken her too. Help me open this fucking door. I swore, pulling again. We threw ourselves against it repeatedly, but it was useless. After half an hour, we collapsed into the snow, exhausted and defeated. I don't know how long we lay there. Our minds finally stretched past their limits. This time, the tears came freely. After a long while, I picked myself up, the hollow shock returning. We keep moving, I said. We can't stop. Jake nodded, desperation in his eyes. We will make it, Jake. We will. My own voice sounded like a mockery, but he didn't seem to notice. We slung on our packs and continued north. The next day is a blur. Grief, shock, and exhaustion had taken their toll. We moved on muscle memory alone. When we stopped to set up camp, we remained silent. What was there left to say? Through some mute understanding, we decided to sleep in one tent, seeking that fragile, naive sense of security. When we awoke, we both breathed a silent sigh of relief. We were alive, present, as lucid as we could be. Once again, we shouldered our packs and set out. The circle was on our left now, unmoving and sinister. I kept glancing at it, half expecting it to lurch closer. Jake seemed to be pointedly ignoring it. After several miles, he spoke, his voice hoarse. Do you know the first thing I'll do when I get out of here? What? I asked, confused. Go to Stonehenge. I stared at him. Why? Why in the hell would you go to Stonehenge? Jake grinned, a raw, broken thing. To take a shit on it. I was silent for a second. Then I started to laugh, a hysterical, insane laugh that only a man on the brink of death can manage. Jake joined in as we skied. You can count me in, I gasped. Yeah, revenge is B. A sickening, tectonic crack echoed from beneath us. The ice shook, and we swayed to keep our balance. The ground fell away. We had been crossing a hollow, and it gave way without warning. We fell only a few meters, but our skis made the landing clumsy. Jake let out a scream of pain as he hit the ground. The air was knocked out of me. I gasped, my lungs burning. I crawled over to him. Are you all right? No, he said through clenched teeth, his face twisted in pain. I think I broke my goddamn ankle, Adam. My heart sank, but I forced myself up. Come on, I'll help you. He leaned heavily on me as I slowly raised him. The second he put weight on his leg, he almost collapsed. It's definitely broken. Fuck, Adam, it's broken. Let's just get out of this hole first, I said, forcing calm into my voice. The sides of the crevasse were sloped enough to form a crude ramp. Painstakingly, I helped Jake climb out, his every step punctuated by a wince and a gasp. Once we were on the surface, he sat down hard in the snow. What do we do now? He said. I can't walk. I can't ski. I didn't know. Let's just rest for now. Maybe it's just sprained. We both knew it was a lie. While Jake rested, I took Lena's ski pole and broke it in half. I cut a length of rope and approached him. What's that? He asked. A splint. He smiled thinly. Didn't know you were a field medic. I'm not, but if it helps you walk, it's worth a try. I tied the makeshift splint to his leg. Jake hissed as I tightened the rope. All right, doctor, let's see if it works. Swaying and grimacing, he raised himself upright. He took several steps, his face a mask of pain. We tried to push on. I came to admire Jake's willpower again, even in agony. At the end of his sanity, he didn't give up, but quickly became clear we wouldn't make it. It took us 2 hours to go a single mile. Finally, Jake collapsed. I knelt beside him. You need to rest, I said. I'm no use to you, he whispered. I'm just slowing you down. We'll never make it at this pace. Don't talk like that. It's true, Adam, he said, looking up at me. I'm dead weight, and whatever's hunting us, that damned circle, it won't let us leave. Will it? It's been playing with us. He laughed, an empty, morbid sound. For all we know, it's been leading us in circles this whole time. Oh, the irony. Just rest, Jake, I said. You'll feel better. He was silent for a moment. I think I know what it wants. What? I asked, dreading the answer. The circle, Adam. The man on the altar, he made a sacrifice to it, and it didn't kill him. If you make an offering, it might not take you. What offering? What are you? I trailed off, the horrifying meaning dawning on me. No, you can't be serious. Just think about it. I'm useless. I'm slowing you down. If this thing feels like it's not going to get what it wants, it'll just kill us both. My blood ran cold. I can't do that. We don't even know if it works that way. Jake looked over my shoulder and laughed grimly. I think we do. I think it just sent us a message. I looked up and started in shock. Somehow, though we hadn't moved, we were now sitting inside the circle of gray stones. I looked down and realized Jake was leaning with his back against the horrible altar itself. Jake, please, he said, let this be my last act, an act of friendship. Let my death have some meaning. Grimacing, he pushed himself upright, using the altar for support. He stretched out his arm and placed his ski pole in my cold hands. I won't do it, I said, my voice quaking. Jake looked me in the eyes, and my heart broke. You have to. Slowly, he lay down on the altar, folding his arms over his chest. Tell everyone what happened here, Adam. Tell them not to follow in our footsteps. This thing, it won't stop. It will always want more. You have to get out of here to stop that from happening. He closed his eyes. I approached from the side, tears welling up. In nerveless hands, I raised the pole above my head as the cold, gray stones watched on in silence.